Hi, I'm going to try and help two people in this video. The first are people who have thought about going to Nepal, but have, for whatever reason, not been able to, or have certain reservations about going. And the second group of people is people that may have never considered Nepal as a destination of somewhere to go. Because I want to encourage more people to travel to Nepal. It is an incredible experience to have. It's a beautiful country with beautiful people, and I think it's sort of a hidden gem, and I don't think a lot of people really understand or know just what sort of things that you can find in Nepal. So as my personal favorite country to travel, I just kind of want to share that with everybody, with you, who the watcher, the listener. I want to convince you to try and go to Nepal. I should specify I am talking about trekking. Nepal has many other incredible experiences. There's the cultural experience of visiting cities that are hundreds of years old and have lots of history to them. And then there's also safaris. That should not be overshadowed. Those are all very interesting experiences. But today we're keeping it focused and we're talking about trekking. We're not talking about summiting mountains. We're talking about multi-day treks that you can do by yourself. No porters, no guides. This is for solo trekking in Nepal. So, let's get into the three things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about money and cost. We're going to talk about physical fitness. And we're going to talk about health. So you want to find out how much it's going to cost before you go. We're going to do a 2-week trip with a 10-day trek. I'm going to talk about the prices of everything involved, and then you can sparse out that information depending on your trip. I'm here to offer a trip that you can be comfortable with to an extent, but still feel like you're roughing it. So flights. Flights right now to Nepal from the United States are at a historic low. We will be going to Nepal in a few weeks. I've never paid this low of a price for flights to Nepal. In fact, we're just going to switch over to a different view while I look up in real time how much these prices are. Okay, so we're online and we are looking first of all for flights. So I'm just going to very quickly I'm going to go to Google Flights. We're going to do Boston. We're going to do Kathmandu. Oh shoot. I'm going to just do a random 2 weeks in March. It's a pretty good time to go trekking. And leave on a Wednesday, come back on a Wednesday, boom, boom. So this is 684 round trip. That's great. So you can book through GoToGate, you can book through Budget Air, and you can book with Qatar Airways. Historically low prices. Even $700 is completely unheard of for a round trip ticket to Nepal. I've been going back and forth from Nepal since 2014, and this is the best I've ever seen it. So right now we have about $700 for flights to and from Nepal. If you're flying somewhere within Nepal, we'll tack on another $300 there and back. We're at $1,000. Let's see how much of the rest of the trip will cost, because I guarantee you it's going to be less than that. And everybody's favorite necessary cost, immigration. So immigration, you have 3 options when you arrive at the airport. You do a 15-day, you do a 30-day, or a 90-day. Bring cash, exchange it, pay for your visa. Boom, you're done. The 15, what are the prices currently? I had to look this up. Okay, so 15 days, $30. 30 days is $50, and 90 days is $125. So you can't chop up your options. If you're there for 2 weeks, you're paying $50. Next, we have hotels and homestays. So you're there for 2 weeks. Let's pretend that you're just going to stay in Kathmandu the whole time. We're just gonna go look at booking.com. I do not suggest using booking.com. You can. I wouldn't book your entire stay through booking.com. I would book like one night, and then after that one night, go find something cheaper. Because the cheapest hotels are not on booking.com. They're probably not even online, but you can go around and ask. But to just get an idea of what prices we're looking at, let's just go look real quick. Going through booking.com does not give you the lowest prices you can find, but I'm going through booking.com just as an exercise to show you what sort of prices you can find. So if we just look in Kathmandu, and I'll actually do Tamil, because that's where most people are going to be staying anyway. And then we go to same week, there's 2 weeks in March, and we're gonna do just one, because we're talking solo travelers. So, and you can see, first one up here is $54 for 14 nights. Now, this is a 10-bed mixed dorm. Hostels are for a specific type of traveler. I've stayed in hostels before. I personally prefer my own room. I don't like sleeping in dorms, so I'm going to show another example. That is just one example of, say, a dorm. Down here, Kathmandu Mantra Hotel is $180 for 14 nights. So you can just round up $200. $200 for 14 nights for a place that you can come back whenever you want. You can keep your stuff here. This place comes with breakfast. So the main point of showing you this is that it's cheap. It's incredibly cheap. Even if you just want a place to come back to and store your stuff, then you have your storage options. So we have travel costs, we have immigration fees, we have hotel fees, and now we're going to move into the trekking fees. Number one, you've got permits that you need to get. TIMS stands for Trekkers Information Management System. Everybody has to get this thing. It's a way for the Nepali government to keep track of where their tourists are. So if you are solo trekking, that's going to be 2,000 rupees, so a little less than 20 bucks. Next, you have to get permits for the specific areas that you're going. So Annapurna, Langtang, and Everest all cost, I think, $20. So you've got your permits. Now you need transportation to the start of your trek. You're going to grab a taxi for like 400 rupees, and that taxi is going to take you from your hotel to Kalanki Chowk. And then from Kalanki Chowk, you go ask somebody and say, I need a bus to Pokhara. If you say Pokhara, they'll know exactly where you need to go, and they're gonna put you on a bus, and that bus is gonna cost like 700 rupees. You've gotten to Pokhara, which is the jumping off point for all of the Annapurna treks. You will have to get one more bus from Pokhara to the start of Annapurna, but it's like 30 minutes or an hour or something like that, and I don't know, another 400 rupees, maybe not even that. If you hop on a local bus that's going that way, it'll cost you like 15 rupees or 20 rupees. That's 20 cents. That's less than 20 cents. You're a trekker now. You're on the trail, which means you're going to be staying in tea houses. Tea houses are incredible. They're the best system for trekking. They help the local economy. They provide an accessible way for literally almost anybody to go trekking. Tea house trekking is the best trekking. It's number one. Tea houses provide rooms and they provide food. The prices will vary depending on two things. Depending on elevation, so how high you are, because it costs more to bring things further up. Food costs depend on how much you eat. If you are budget trekking, you should not be spending more than $10 on food and board. Separately, if you have to buy snacks, if you have to buy medication or something like that, you might be spending a little bit more money. So maybe provide some room for that. But even so, let's say you spend 1,000 rupees, so let's say you spend $10 a night on your room and $10 a night on food, and you're on a 10-day trek. How much is that? It's $200 for 10 days. It's pretty good. That $10 for food, that includes like your main meal and your breakfast. So breakfast is usually like 200 to 300 rupees. Dinner is like 500 to 600 rupees. It can be more because the higher you go, the more expensive things become. But if you're saving more money at the bottom of the trek, and then things become more expensive, it sort of evens out. The price will go up if you want more. But if you're trying to budget trek, you can do it. You can do it, totally do it for $20 a day, for sure. So that's it for a 2-week stay with a 10-day trek. Let's calculate it. Our $700 round trip ticket to Everest, another $300, $1,000 right there. Next, you've got your home base, you've got your hotel, you've got the hotel keeping your belongings, maybe $180. So let's just round up. Let's just say $200. Next, we've got transportation to and from trekking. We're assuming that we're flying, so we don't need to calculate the transportation costs of getting to and from the trek, except maybe the taxi, so like $10. Trekking in the tea houses, we are assuming $20 a day for 10 days, $200 more. That's it. It's surprisingly cheap, but again, this is like a solo trek. You don't have a guide, you don't have a porter. You're on these well-marked trails, so you really don't need one, and you're doing everything minimal. So when you break it down, it does make sense, but I think seeing the number right there, it's pretty cheap, relatively, for, if you're traveling from America, for going to the other side of the world and experiencing something completely different. It's pretty cheap. Next major topic is physical fitness. How physically fit do you need to be? And this question is answered entirely by knowing what trek you're going on. Are you going to do the Annapurna circuit, or are you doing Poon Hill? Are you doing Everest Base Camp, or are you doing like Chisopani? Is it a 4-day, 3-night trek, or is it a 3-week journey? That's the question. The treks in Nepal accommodate every type of trekker, from beginner to advanced. And that's the beautiful thing about Nepal. You decide how much you are trying to exert. You can get an idea what you're in for by just doing a little bit of research on how other people perceive the trek to be. Typically though, if it's longer than 5 to 8 days, you're probably going to need some exercise, and you're probably going to need to prepare for the trip. But you don't need to be in crazy good shape to do treks in Nepal. Earlier I said that tea house trekking is the best type of trekking, and this is one of the reasons why, is because you can experience these amazing sights and being in the Himalayas, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. You're never going up and down or traveling a whole day and then having to pitch tent and camp and cook your own food. You trek for 6 hours, 5 hours, and then you reach a settlement and you rent a room. You go to the communal area and you meet other trekkers, you meet the local Nepalis, you meet the people who own the tea house that you're staying in, you talk with people. It's a very communal thing. And then you eat food that any other time might be super bland, but because you've been hiking for 5 to 6 hours that day, it just tastes so good. It's the best type of trekking. And even if you're not in like super good shape, that thing keeping you going is that you're able to do your 5 or 6 hours a day, and then you reach the tea house, and then you just get to relax. And I wish there were more places in the world that did that, and it's one of the things that makes trekking in Nepal so special, and one of the reasons I highly recommend it. And one of the reasons that physical health, although it is a factor, and you should understand what you are getting yourself into when you do these longer treks, is not necessarily a deal breaker. You can get that tea house trekking experience but not have to get in crazy shape before doing it. So the last one, the final one, health. Health is a big issue, and I might have to be a little bit brutal and say that Nepal, there's probably a 30 to 40% chance that you will get sick. There are some precautions that you can take. A big one, especially when you're in Kathmandu, is to unfortunately avoid meat. The preparation of meat is not as thorough as veg items. I love Nepali meat dishes. I love momo. I love Newari food. I love Nepali prepared pork. If you're coming to Nepal fresh, eating meat just might bring with it certain issues. Now, when you get up into the mountains, when you're trekking and you decide to have meat, that might be fine. When it comes to certain food items within Kathmandu, if you're just getting off the plane, I would be careful with what you eat, and I would take things slowly. Wash your hands. And then something that we're all tired of, I'm sure, but that probably works and that Nepalis were doing long before it was popular, is wear a mask. Wearing a mask, especially in the Kathmandu Valley where it is super dusty all the time, especially in the times where trekking is the best, because that's the dry season, and because things are dry, there's a lot of dust in the valley. Wearing a mask around the valley can really help mitigate maybe a lot of the particles in the air and sickness that might be carried with them. I remember an article, and this was quite a few years ago now, but I remember an article in a Nepali publication talking about how masks were the official hat of Nepal or something like that. Masks had become the official hat of Nepal, and it was a big joke, obviously, but the writer was obviously making fun of the fact of how dirty the Kathmandu Valley is. So wear a mask. Last health thing, drinking water. So do not drink out of any faucet in Kathmandu. Once in the mountains, you should be good to go. Especially when you get higher up, like maybe 2 to 3 days in. Maybe down low you don't want to drink right out of the streams, but maybe 2 or 3 days in, when you're a little bit higher up, you should be fine. If you want, one thing that you can add to your backpack, or if you have the room or whatever, is a filtration pump. Those are super useful and they're super compact. I think they run for somewhere between $100 and $200. So that's an option. Otherwise, you can get tablets, chlorine tablets. So that's drinking water. That's the end of the video, really. I love Nepal. It's an incredibly beautiful and interesting country, a complex country with dozens and hundreds of different cultures and languages. And I just want to share that love with other people who have been thinking about going to Nepal, or have maybe even never considered it. And maybe this is your first time hearing about Nepal. I want to spread that love in just this little way, help alleviate the tension or fear that maybe some of you have, or who are thinking about going. It can be an incredible trip. Tickets are at a record low. The trails are bound to have less people, and you're going to gain an unforgettable experience.
भेट भयो आज हामी सिन्डिकेटको माझ हामी उभे छु तिम्रो बगलमा बिजी तिमी मोबाइलमा हेरेछु खिलेको यो वन नाम तिम्रो थाहा छैन तर मलाई